Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, everyone. This is Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. I'm joined, as always, by Kyle Fergusson, and joined, as always, once a month by Mr. DunkTrain. Welcome back, gentlemen. Dunk, how have you been?
Hey, man. I've been doing good. I've kind of been doing my thing. I got to visit Gamescom. That was amazing.
Oh my god, that did happen between now and the last time you were on the show.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. So it's been awesome. I had a really good month.
Nice. Well, I'm jealous. Gamescom has been on my list for a long time, and it's still on the list because I didn't go this year. So
yeah, man, it was insane. It's so huge. Like, I've been to E3 before and stuff, because I've worked in the game industry, but like Gamescom was packed with fans.
How did it feel compared to BlizzCon? Because I made the I kind of drew the line, and a lot of other folks did too, that it really seemed like this year was like a miniature BlizzCon happening in the middle of Gamescom.
It definitely felt that way. Like, the conventions feel completely different in the sense that Gamescom is way more crowded. Like, they just sell so many tickets for the space. The space is huge, but there's just so many people. Gamescom is infinitely crowded. It feels like everything is a lot more compact. The Blizzard area was beautiful. It was like a mini island of BlizzCon inside of Gamescom, but the feel of the conventions is still really different. Like, just because the difference between only Blizzard fans and there's a lot more space at BlizzCon. I feel like you feel a lot more camaraderie, I guess, at BlizzCon, regardless of everything. Even if you don't know someone, like at BlizzCon, you're there for the same thing. Whereas like at Gamescom, it's a wider variety of people. But it's like it's kind of cramped and hot and sweaty and nerdy and smelly, like
it sounds like
at the same time.
It sounds like every other con I go to. Like, you go to your local Comic-Con, it's not like a legit Comic-Con. It just, San Diego didn't copyright the name properly, so everyone's using it, or your local anime convention or whatever, where they just sell a ton of tickets and there's a bunch of people and it's super crowded. Actually, Star Wars Celebration was like that this year. It was insane how I would assume they would have cut it off at a certain point, but they didn't. It was just shoulder to shoulder.
Get in here.
Yeah, it was just you're butts to butts with everyone basically.
Pretty much.
But hey Kyle, you're being super polite and quiet while Dunk fuels me with German's rage. How's Kel'Thuzad's launch week going for you, man? We also got a new season, and I've poked into your stream. You're not the normal Kyle I know.
No, I haven't plowed on ahead, immediately placed. I am going on vacation tomorrow. I took things a little slow, but I've also been waiting for a certain Lich for a very long time, and I love him to pieces. I love the power spikes. I love the talents. Maybe I love certain talents and not the entire tier, but there's a lot that I just am eating up. I feel so creative. I feel like a conductor on the battlefield. I am overcome by disappointment at my fellow Kel'Thuzads, but I'm very happy. Well, and I've just been basking in it. And plus, yesterday I was on a stream giving out codes. That was insanity, being on the Blizzard launcher and doing that event. I had a great time. And then even more, I think perhaps it feels like I finally bucket listed something. I was a part of the Heroes Forge Kel'Thuzad giveaway, and they had a whole sort of theme going where Jeff played the hero. It was his first time on the hero ever, and then Kel'Thuzad called the show, and I showed up on an account called Kel'Thuzad and pretended to be Kel'Thuzad playing Kel'Thuzad. And about 5 minutes into the very first game, the audience starts to go, "What the heck is wrong with Kel'Thuzad? Why is he auto-attacking?" And they just go, "It's Kyle. There's no other mage on Earth that wants to auto-attack as badly as Kyle does." I was so flattered that my my great desire to put out these free bits of dot damage gave me away as a player.
That's fantastic. I mean, I would make the argument that his auto attack animation is just so damn flashy. You got to get it in there. You look like you're conducting the orchestra.
He's feeding birds. It's beautiful. It's like it's the sort of out of the wrist, like almost Spider-Man is ice skating.
I didn't think about feeding birds, but that's a good or is it ice skating Spider-Man. Good Lord, man, you're killing it. You're out the gate with some good ones tonight. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, dude. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And it's not like it was your first time on the launcher either, but I can only imagine if it was advertised that you were giving away Kel'Thuzad keys, that it was probably a little nutty.
It is. Well, Blizzard has fostered a ravenous fan base, let's say. And I was very excited to conduct such an event. I honestly had an awesome time. And there comes a point, too, like, if you're sitting in your stream and you got, 15 people and one guy shows up and is rude, my heart, the population. But when it's just going by at 1,000,000 miles an hour, it's chaos. You got to laugh at it.
Yeah, when you're trying to read the Matrix.
Right. Or what's a poop? Evil Dead. Evil Dead, right?
Okay.
One taxidermy animal laughing on the wall, frightening as heck. All of them laughing on the walls, you got to dance with it.
Oh, okay. All right. It's Evil Dead 2 specifically. You got to specify that. I know what you're talking about. And yes, you're right. One, creepy. Everything in the room, hilarious. So, that's good. I'm sure at least 3 people out there are mildly concerned. Yes, I do live in Florida. No, the hurricane is not here yet. Yes, I am still alive. And next week's podcast schedule is suspect at the moment. Let's just put it that way. I don't know what next week's going to look like for this show, for any of the shows. So if an Into the Nexus does not go up next week, Thursday night at the usual time, check my Twitter. I might be screaming or something. Who knows? Or swimming. Hopefully just swimming and not drowning. But I'm fine right now. Current projections are good. I'm riding this out. So
yep. All you need is some belts and some pipes.
I'm not sure Twister is an accurate film, Kyle. Man, the references.
No, it's the power of love, man. You hold her close, and nothing can possibly hurt you, man.
Rest in peace, Bill Paxton. All right, that's going to wrap up the most off-the-rails freaking intro to an episode of Into the Nexus we've had in quite a while. Let's dive right into it with this week's Heroes of the Storm news.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Put me to the stage.
Click the play button, and let's get started.
So it's Kel'Thuzad release week. There's been a long lead up to the release of this hero. Many things have been said about Kel'Thuzad already because we knew about him at Gamescom. Everyone got to play him last week. Dunk, you even got to play him at Gamescom. But he is out. We do have stats to look at, albeit as always not perfect stats because we have to rely on things like HOTS logs. And his win rate is lower than I think anyone wanted it to be, especially Kel'Thuzad fans, and I'm sure Team 1. But
climbing. It was 42 on Tuesday.
It is
to 45 now.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is on the way. I, by the way, have not been helping that win rate. My Kel'Thuzad games have not been going all that well. At a certain point, I just decided I was going to chain Sonya to complete that quest.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
My shock at Kel'Thuzad, like there's been many high skill cap heroes. It's funny too because there's this wave building, right? As we heard from everyone at Gamescom, he's amazing. He's going to be such an impact on the pro scene. And then to me, when I'm playing on the PTR and I'm looking at the quest and I'm looking at his power spike, and it's like they handed you a book and said, "Here's how to play Kel'Thuzad. Just read the instructions, read all the abilities, know the quest." There's no question about what you should be doing for the first 7 minutes of the game. And I'm melting, man. I'm so sad. I don't know what's going on out there.
So are you sad because they gave you an instruction manual and it was figured out for you, or are you sad because people are failing at reading the instruction manual?
The failure of those to execute upon, it's so strange. You connect, the quest completes based on connecting these Frost Novas and your chains. And when you make the connection that 2 chains together, pull someone, smack them, and then Frost Nova the middle, particularly this talent at, off the top of my head here, let me grab it. slows them by 70%. Once you smack them together, chains of ice, it becomes so easy. And you're sitting there going, how are you? How has this gone wrong? I know I did this with Li Ming too. I was standing there going, she's not OP. It's fine. And the S of Joan, and we're like, oh, okay, fine, get rid of that. But she's not OP. It's not. I don't know. I have an emotional time with hero releases.
Well, if you've been playing a lot in Quick Match, I think it's been going so wrong. Because Valera's in every game. and you're too busy looking at the amazing ice effects to actually be looking for the shimmer. You're getting caught out. And also, it's Quick Match. No one's peeling for you, and you're just gonna die.
That's true, but we're dealing with our MMRs. How is Kel'Thuzad going for you, DunkTrain?
I have only so the weirdest thing is that for the first 2 days he was getting like permabanned in Hero League. Like no one was even willing to try him. No one was willing to risk him being in the game. It was like Kel'Thuzad ban every time. As the second big team, without fail, was first banning Kel'Thuzad. So I have played 3 games of Hero League Kel'Thuzad the whole time.
Wow.
Like, and I've only seen 2 other people play Kel'Thuzad. Both were terrible. My games I felt impactful. I won one of them. I carried one of them, actually. I lost the other 2, but they were tough games. Overall, I'm just concerned that, like the other mages, I'm not sure if he has a place in the meta. Like, he is an immobile, squishy mage with only medium range. I think it's going to be tough for him to find a spot, realistically, against how powerful the dive heroes and anti-mage heroes are right now.
Yeah, I've had great success this week with getting people together on stream and building comps that are just nothing but guys with slows, nothing but dudes with stuns. Rootin' Tootin' was the name of a team with like Thrall and Arthas. Like it was fantastic, and just having that level of CC. But I was really surprised by his short range and how much I enjoyed having a Alarak, Garrosh, or even an Artanis on the team.
Yeah, I think you really need, like, if Kel'Thuzad is trying to set up his own combo all the time without any help from his team, he's in way too much danger. That's what I've found. It really feels like if I'm trying to get in range for chains, if I'm trying to look for the opportunity, because his combo is so involved, you can't just like throw it out. It's not like Kel'Thas where you just are throwing out flame strikes and you stun when people get close. Like, it really feels like Kel'Thuzad needs to cast his abilities together to be impactful. So I've definitely been feeling the pressure. If you're looking for those windows, you're in range to get attacked.
Are we invoking your catchphrase? Is burden of execution going to be brought up at any point in this discussion? That it's a good hero, but you just have to try so much harder to make it work?
I think so. But the payoff is there. At least post 16, the payoff is there. I think pre 16, you are going to need follow up. You're going to need other people to either set your combo up or follow up on your combo to get kills.
I found myself doing the same sort of thing, and I think me and the CTC were both challenging each other to make you make the engage. Oh, you know, and I'm like, no, you do it so I can then follow it up. But he wanted me to lead, and it's definitely because of that style really forced me into Glacial Spike. And so many objectives are out of lane too, or not near buildings, or you end up being on defensive and none of your own buildings work, and that can make things a bit rough. But I did want to know what about 16? Is it the Hungering Cold?
The bonus damage per instance of damage they take. On the Frost Nova Center, it's a bonkers amount of damage if your Death and Decay actually lands. Yeah. Like, I've actually found a lot of my combos on KT, if you're fighting in lane or over like an Infernal Shrines area where there's, little minions and stuff, it's really hard to get your Death and Decay to actually land on the combo target a lot of the time. So that's something I've become more aware of, that people probably need to try and make sure they have the right angle or aren't fighting near minions, because Death and Decay is so much of your damage, especially once you get that 16 talent, since every tick gets the bonus damage.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I felt like my angling to try and get Death and Decay to land where I wanted it to was more often than not putting me at a place I do not want to be or had no business being in.
Yeah, definitely feels that way.
Okay, cool. Not crazy. Still bad at Kel'Thuzad, but at least I'm not crazy.
Yeah, he's fun though, man. He is so fun.
I love him. When we got on the show last week, when I had like my first just AI game, just getting in, trying to figure out his abilities, I was instantly in love. I love this hero's kit. I think it's one of the And it's 2 in a row or 3 in a row if you count Stukov. I think they're on a hot streak. For me personally, I think Stukov's amazing. Garrosh blows my mind. I just think a lot of people just aren't utilizing him right, and I also don't think it's the right meta. And Kel'Thuzad, just what a fantastic kit, and it's lining up with like my lore love too of these Blizzard games. It's great. They're not. It's not pro-based. They're not dropping the ball on what I thought the hero was going to be.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I hadn't thought of it, but the last 3 releases have actually been excellent. They've all had like high interactivity kits, like a lot of skill ceiling, interesting thing going on within the kits. They've been great.
I feel a bit bad for Cassia. There's nothing wrong with her, and actually I really like playing her. It's just there's no reason to.
I don't feel bad for Cassia because no one picks her. That means I get to play her, and I love playing Cassia.
Maybe that's it. It's not a mountain bike. It's just one of those granny with the basket on front. But it's a beautiful day out.
You're not being flashy. You're not getting anywhere particularly fast, but it's just as effective as getting groceries. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much, right? You have a little, it's not your favorite dog. It's an ugly little thing, but it's a family dog, and you love it.
Okay.
Kyle has favorite pets. Just wait till he has kids.
Everyone does. The stats actually reflect in Kel'Thuzad a lot of what we're talking about too. Below 35% win rate if it's before the 14-minute mark. After 20 minutes, he has about a 56, but that's not stellar because most heroes who get to their level 20 end up winning the game, at least when you're looking at stats online. I wanted to know, are you seeing the impact of overquesting in Master League?
What do you mean?
I've been in a number.
Go ahead.
I've been in a number of games this week with like a Jaina alongside, and her and I get in this weird battle, and even the Alarak, because he's trying to do lightnings. No one wants to go solo because we're all like, I want to be in the middle. I want the stacks.
Yeah. I feel like people don't like solo laning that much usually anyway. Like, I feel like in most of my games, it's struggle to get someone to pick the Dahaka, to pick the like hero that just goes in the solo lane and makes sure the wave's pushed out and sometimes comes to team fights. Like, I've actually been playing a lot of Jaina because of the new skin and the rework in the new season, and I find myself just soaking lanes almost all the time because people don't want to. So I won a game on Blackheart's Bay that actually went to like level 18 and didn't finish my ice block quest. That's how little a team fought. I was just soaking waves and doing mercs. And like, I guess that's okay? I don't know.
Is that choice impactful? Did you feel like you made a choice, or were you just in general bummed out and in fights you were lacking a tool?
I mean, I'm always bummed out when I'm the lane soak split guy, but I wasn't bummed out that I wasn't getting my ice block. Like, I was doing what I felt was my best chance to win. As far as other people and overall game, I haven't really seen people change their behaviors a whole bunch because of the quest. I don't feel like,
That's good. Okay. It's such an interesting shift. I feel like since 2.0 anyway, solo laning before 2.0 was a big deal, and it was a moment of pride. Maybe it was Braxis that kind of brought it in. And then 2.0 came out, and all of a sudden, if you're not leading the 4-man, you're probably losing the game being in solo. It's just my feeling for it.
Yeah, it's a little weird. There's so many heroes now with quests too that like require being in the 4-man.
For me, I'm interested. I would be interested to talk to some of our friends in the lower leagues or hear from people from every league leading up, because in my games still it seems like a coin flip. Like if I go a solo lane hero, whether or not the team will be on board with that, or if I will still get yelled at for not being part of just this death ball roam squad. So I don't know. They don't. Yeah, to me, I feel like there might still be like some weird social engineered impact as to why some people don't like solo lane, because maybe as they were grinding up the leagues, they've been being yelled at for playing correctly.
Yeah, well, and the seesaw is wild right now. I mean, when you get into leagues and heroes and points, at least people are, if blindly picking, at least picking what they're believing they win with. But it's a sea of Tyrandas out there. And it just varies so wildly. Like this past week, Malthael got back on top, and Illidan was shot to the bottom. over the past 2 weeks or so. So all those Illidan's became Malthaels, and all the Tassadars became Tyrandas, and
yeah.
And when it's running at you, we can't go Master Skin anymore. You have no idea if that's an informed play style making its way towards you.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem a little more flavor of the week than usual, with the exception of Tyrande. She's been the flavor of multiple weeks now. Flavor of the month, maybe.
See, there's a mini map, you know. That's the tough one about Tyrande, and the owls happen all game, and that level 20 owl comes through and decimates your 2 mages, and you just this was building, right? You know, someone's stabbing you in the toe since you woke up in the morning. Eventually, you're gonna slap them and say stop. Think about when you don't put your feet there. It's crazy. I'm shocked by some of these win rates too. Like Leoric seems like he got a lot of power, great talent, diversity, perhaps great situational talents. In fact, even his level 7 that says it's just minions and mercenaries is working on monsters right now too. He went down almost 3%.
Yeah, I didn't expect Leo to go down in win rate. I mean, it could just be people adjusting to the changes, but I feel like Leo's powerful and has an interesting talent setup.
Yeah, I agree. So some that I've played against this week have been absolutely terrifying to go up against. At the same time, it's all anecdotal at the end of the day when you talk about your personal games, but I probably had an equal amount of games against Leorics that seemed to just worth it or YOLO die over and over again. It felt like when Leoric first came out, and yes, of all the heroes on the team, it's probably the most okay for him to die, but not to get into the double digits faster than anyone else in the game.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I see that Leoric stat and I go, is this just because a bunch of people are trying Leoric now that he looks new and shiny and they haven't played him before? Yeah, I'm not sure. Because, Kyle, you're a huge Leoric fan, and I think you're very, very happy with the changes. And DunkTrain, you clearly sound like you are as well. Who knows? I'm still just sitting on my porch yelling at everyone, you're doing Garrosh wrong. So, and then Chromie too. So last week, Kyle, we spent a lot of time talking about Chromie, Jaina, Leoric, and Morales, and those are the stat changes that you talked about here. And all of them have gone down, except Jaina, who barely went anywhere, stat-wise.
Interesting. Yeah, let's talk about Chromie for a moment, because we just talked about, immobile mages. She's a special case with her artillery kind of play style. We see her a lot in HGC, and she went down to this update. Is that a surprise to you, Dunk, or did spot on sustains taken over?
I think the nerf to the base damage and the scaling of the Q just really punishes the Chromie style that was prominent before of just like spamming Qs nonstop. You'd basically need to be stacking your Q at a pretty good clip, I think. If I'm not mistaken, the math on it, I don't know exactly how it works out, but you have to get a pretty reasonable number of stacks per level to even keep up with the old scaling. Like, it's a pretty big deal. So I'm not surprised to see her win rate go down, but I'm happy for that. So I'm just gonna accept that and move on and hope she never gets buffed.
Unfortunately, no one on this show is going to fight you on that. Sorry, listeners. Kyle almost looked like he was going to play devil's advocate for a second, but no.
No. Chromie getting sniped from off screen is not my favorite thing in the world, but it is interesting. What about Morales? This is an odd one. This is one that has caused a lot of tilting, I believe. I'm not sure if, in this case, the tank is wrong or if Morales is wrong, but either way, Morales perhaps had too heavy of a personality. She's currently down about 5%, now down to 44% win rate. I think that as she ran out of mana in the past, she would go, mana is low, and like keep going. But those same Moraleses are doing the exact same thing. They get nervous that their energy is so low, and then they start spamming it, but it needs 3 seconds to recover, and then stays at that rate until it reaches maximum. So Varian's engaging because he's getting the little heals, and the Valera in every quick match is also thinking things are good, and because Morales didn't hearth, there must be mana. I'm not sure what happened there.
I mean, I think it's just a huge nerf to her healing output overall. You no longer have the decision to keep using Q like as your mana gets low, like I was talking with Bakery about this, and he was talking about how so the healing got nerfed slightly, but also like your time to is now I think 13 seconds. It's like 13 seconds and you run out of energy or something completely, and then you can't heal anymore for like 20 seconds because you have to wait 3 seconds for your regen to even start, and then you don't have a meaningful amount of energy for what, another 6-7 seconds after that. So like if you run out of energy, you're healing, and then you stop healing, you have to wait like 8-10 seconds, 12 seconds before you have a meaningful amount of healing again. And that's just, people aren't doing that. Whereas before, your Morales could come to lane and heal you for 40 seconds straight, and then she'd have to back. But that's okay, because most fights are over by 40 seconds. Most fights are not over by the 13 seconds that Morales runs out of energy, you know? But people don't appreciate that. They don't think, oh, I have Morales, I have like a 10-second downtime window, as if she were an Uther. They think, just keep fighting, we're going to win.
Yeah, you
but
just
that's
think
not
of
the
her
case.
as this gas tank for your fight, and she's just not that anymore.
Yeah.
And it
Should they adjust to it, or is it just bad?
I think it's not as bad as the win rate suggests, but I do think it is worse than before. So you will need to adjust your playstyle, but I also think she's not in a great place balance-wise because of the frustration of dealing with the energy system, in my opinion. Of course, a lot of her power was shifted towards like her grenade build that everyone seems pretty happy with. Like the 1-second grenade cooldowns are like super obnoxious. I don't know if you guys have played around against any of that, but just getting knocked about every couple seconds, that can be pretty tilting.
went up against a Morales on Blackheart's Bay this week, and it was just like, I'm never turning this coin in. These coins are never getting turned in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. She's the ultimate stall tactic now with that grenade cooldown. But Kyle, I find fascinating the point you brought up about kind of the information game of like without having to say anything. When you see back in the day, which sounds hilarious now, a week ago, when you saw Morales with low mana, you knew how to adjust your playstyle, and now when the energy gets low, you don't. I mean, you should. We're talking about it now. You need to wait a lot longer to re-engage. But I think, and I kind of jumped to this conclusion too. I think a lot of us, when we saw Morales going to energy, it's like, oh, well, she'll have a bunch of mechanics to recover that energy, and and no, not at all. That is not the case. So I don't know. I'm lumping the issue with Morales into the overall issue of lack of communication in heroes in general.
Oh, you mean like what we talked about last time with alerts maybe on your hero? You got to press OK to read the challenge, scroll to the bottom and click I agree.
Yeah.
Hero League.
Now, granted, UI-wise, there's been even more stuff added in this patch that is fantastic, especially with quest completion and quest denial. But the whole talk about in-game voice chat has been seen a big resurgence as of late. So that's what I'm saying. I think a blue mana bar, like, everyone knows what that means for the most part when it gets low. If you're not paying attention to it and you died because there was no mana, that's on you. But most of us know healer no longer has any blue underneath the green. Time to leave.
Right. But that's the tough part, and that feels like almost a Blizzard tradition at this point. And that's probably about as critical as ever been of Blizzard to say, it feels like they rework a character to be similar to something else, or they put out a new character that is similar, that we just put the two on a pedestal and we go, Garrosh Stitches, well, you should be Stitches. And in this case, it's kind of feeling like healing with large cooldowns, I'll go Uther.
Well, to take that one step further and kind of talk about it overall, at what point is that okay versus at what point is that a problem? Is it a hero diversity? If Stitches is just always the right pick, that isn't an issue. But if there is an alternative to Stitches, even if it isn't Garrosh who does a similar thing, is that okay?
And it's getting more interesting. And the game is getting more layers. And one of the new layers that I'm really feeling is if you end up on something like Braxis with both Varian and Kel'Thuzad. Now you've got two people who aren't online on a 2-lane map, and you're just going to lose just most pads before 10. That's an interesting draft situation, and I kind of like that puzzle.
a fair point, Kyle. So anything else about the patch before we move on?
We did talk briefly about Jaina. You said you were taking her here in League 2. Working well, doing Ice Blink, going for the big blobs, Ice Fury wand, perhaps?
So I tried to try all the new talents. I didn't find Ice Fury wand to be that good. I thought it would be great, and I love auto-attacking on mages. I definitely echo your sentiment there, but I just felt like every time I was playing Ice Fury wand, I was like, man, I just wish I was playing Ice Lance right now. It feels like that's just so much better to be able to like actually chew through tanks, and it like smooths out your rotations so much and being able to keep chill on people. And then I actually have switched to using Water Elemental pretty frequently because the attack splashing is pretty good, the cooldown reduction is good, but then at 20, I feel like all the talents other than the Water Element upgrade are not that impactful. I don't know how much you've played with the new Ice Blink, but the range is so short. It feels like, I mean, you go so little distance that I just felt like it's not even worth picking. And just having access to Winter Mute, so you feel like you really do have a trump card at 20, has felt really good.
It's a fun spell, and that's been there, I believe, since release. Yeah, at least that version of it. It's cool to see Water Elemental again, certainly, and getting people just frost. I mean, you're sort of doing the same thing. You can avoid Ice Blink because you have the Water Elemental to get everyone pre-chilled. And I didn't even know, when did it get Splash? I remember it used to explode onto the field, and then it used to chill onto the field. So I guess this is their compensation they put in a while ago.
I think the splash was this patch. Now the Water Elemental splash attack splash. So like if two people are standing close, they'll both get chilled, which is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, between that and if you're taking Ice Lance, you have a lot of ways to kind of spread the chill around through multiple targets. Yeah, I have played a whopping 1 game with Jaina on live, and it felt terrible because I was so excited to try Ice Fury wand. And yeah, a sample size does that not make, but but it oh man, it was enough to just be like, yeah, okay, I don't know about that.
Maybe standing in auto attack range for a mage, not the best,
especially right now. Good. Yeah. God, it's just like, hey, do you want Jaina to have the same issue that Kel'Thuzad is experiencing? Take this talent at level 7.
I think this talent would instantly be better if they just removed the only heroes part. If you're auto-attacking bosses, that's what I love so much about Ice Lance.
That's what I thought. Like when I picked the talent the first time, and then I go to use it on like a night camp, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't work on camps. I think that's a really big deal because they're pretty similar in team fights, but not being able to do any PvE compared to Ice Lance feels really bad.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I can kind of see the resistance. Like you might think on that and think, oh god, there's just be too many blizzards, but she's still restricted by mana at the end of the day. I don't think making Ice Fury wand work on non-hero targets would be a big deal.
There are also some other changes. Well, win rate adjustments due to these patches. Of course, heroes go up and down. But I'd love to hear if DunkTrain has an explanation for each one of these. So let's play a little game. Murky has risen up to 52% over the last 2 patches.
You can't explain that, man. He just exists. He does his thing.
It happens.
I don't know.
Murky has been a force in the games I have played this week.
Like,
is it the spin factor? Anything that can spin around a hero is going to win right now because of Kel'Thuzad?
Maybe that and like the Genji nerfs. So there's probably less Genji representation, which really preys on Murky. There's no like Li Ming representation really. I feel like with all the new mages, like nobody's playing Li Ming. Abathur has been getting more picks in my experience. I don't know if that's true overall, but more Abathur, more Murky combined with that. Like it's super frustrating to play against Murky Abathur. Could be something. I don't know.
Medivh jumped up 2.2%. Still 3rd lowest win rate hero, but on his way up.
That I have no idea. Medivh I think is super broken. I don't know why. His win rate's so low. Even acknowledging people playing him who don't know how to play him or how hard it is to coordinate in like Quick Match or Hero League or whatever, he's still just so powerful, I feel like.
Is it just perhaps the Tassadar, Tyrande, even Anubarak has this problem? You pick the hero and everyone kind of goes, what are we drafting?
It could be. I mean, he definitely fills a weird spot. But now that you mention it, he's got really good matchups against Tyrande, and he's got good matchups against Chromie. Like, he completely negates Temporal Loop if she goes for that heroic. He's got good matchups against a lot of burst mages because just negating their combo is so powerful.
Oh, no. So this really has nothing to do with maybe player skill or even performance. It's just that we were all seduced onto mages this week, and Medivh's the anti-mage mage.
Yeah, that definitely could be it.
That's a much cleaner narrative.
Yeah, I don't think everyone in Hero League suddenly got better and more coordinated at using portals. That's not the answer.
We need custom pings for that.
No,
the portal.
I don't think so. What about the next one? Rhaegar is now the top support at 54%.
Yep, absolutely. Top support. I don't think it's really close. He is the only support left who is a generalist and can fill every role. He can wear every hat. If you need a burst healer, he burst heals. If you need sustain, he does okay sustain. He has cleanse. Most supports don't have that anymore. Yeah, he's just the most well-rounded support right now, I think, by a wide margin. We've seen all of the other supports get narrower and narrower in focus. Like, Uther's really narrow right now. Medic just got, I guess, reworked, nerfed, whatever you want to call it. Ariel just got turbo nerfed. Malfurion got nerfed before that in his rework. So Rhaegar just does everything.
Do you think it's coming for him next? Or Cleanse overall? Do you think Cleanse is just not long for this world at this point?
Oh, man, it makes me so sad that Blizzard seems really intent on phasing out Cleanse. Just because I think it's such an interest, like, I think it's a really powerful tool that makes for exciting moments, and I'm scared to live in a world of no cleanses. You know, it's just there are so many things in the game that I feel like you need a cleanse to be able to respond to it, and now most heroes don't have that. Most supports even don't have that.
You mentioned the Ariel turbo nerf. On paper, it seems rather calm, but absolutely in practice, it has been devastating. You know, what happened?
I think people don't appreciate just how much easier that talent made Ariel to play. Because now you really have to think about, like, if I throw my heal on this person, I will not have another heal for 4 seconds. Whereas before, RL was like spamming out. Even if before you were spamming out half hope heals, you could more quickly adjust who your healing was on, if that makes sense. Whereas now you have to wait for a full hope meter, otherwise it's not worth the cooldown. And then you drop a heal, and then like the enemy team knows your heal's on cooldown. I feel like the RL nerf was good because that talent was basically a must pick, but it definitely hurt her in the situations where you have a good battery, and that was the only situation she's getting picked anyway.
This sounds similar to the discussion we were just having about Morales. It's an issue of the window between heals.
Yeah, and the opportunity for someone to punish that when they're aware of that information. And I hear things like, you know, don't go with Wrath of Heaven, don't go Will of Heaven, pick up that Reservoir of Hope in the late game. But you're right. I mean, even I enjoy Ariel a lot, but yeah, I'd say I miss a lot of heals. And that's going to make me a horrible Ariel today, as last week, not so bad.
What about this final point that you put in here, Kyle? Malthael reclaiming top assassin alongside Nazebo, Greymane, Tracer, and Vala. How do you explain that, Dunk?
I don't know. I've been seeing a ton of Malthael lately too. I'm not really sure why. I think it's just because all the people who were playing Genji and Illidan, like, oh, our heroes got nerfed. Time to go to another hero who's basically the same hero. Swap to Malthael. I don't know. Maybe melee assassin players are just fickle beasts. And if Illidan gets nerfed, swap to Malthael. Genji gets nerfed, swap to Illidan, and then to Malthael. Like, I don't know.
And this is just one more week where everyone hasn't jumped to Thrall like Kyle has been preaching.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did it last week. I'll be quiet. But I love having a Thrall off tank because I've been getting into tanking more. It's this wild seesaw, as often happens. World of Warcraft, Here's the Storm. What are my mages doing? Darn it, I'm a mage. What am I? A sustain attacker. Darn it, I'm a sustain. So now I'm at my cycle where I'm a main tank again, and I'm loving it. And I love having a Thrall backing me up. Azul is good too, but just having somebody who can, while I control 4 people, deal with one person who got by me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really nice. Like, it's really nice to have like an off tank who can actually threaten people and control space. I feel like that's something that even now, even in GM, like a lot of times people don't draft teams that are capable of doing that, of like controlling space properly. And it's a big problem when you're trying to run these squishy backlines like Kel'Thuzad or Jaina or Chromie. If you can't hold the flank without, having all of your backline looking at it, you're going to get stomped.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a product of armor in the end? Is that like Muradin leaping? ETC, I mean, we don't see a lot of him, but ETC gets armor when he goes. Just too many people going in your face, negating burst?
I don't know if I would say it's about armor. I would say mobility really has become a big deal. The low mobility heroes are so vulnerable right now. But realistically, I think this is like a pretty healthy and diverse meta for Hero League at least, so...
They also removed this patch. Towers of Doom, Warhead Junction, Garden Terror, added in Infernal Shrines. Yes. And Tomb of the Spider Queen. Yes.
Yeah.
This looks like a really good rotation. What should we be playing to take advantage of this? It seems sane. I like it.
It's so sane. I love it. I actually woke up this morning and I was like, man, I've had a lot of good Hero League games the last 2 days. Like, even though it's placements, like, okay, some of the games have been stomped. Some of your games have been bad for placements. It's okay. But overall, I was like, I've really enjoyed Hero League. And I was thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the map rotation. And I tweeted about it because I was like, I'm so happy with the map rotation. But then it also crept in like, oh no, the next rotation literally has to make it worse because there's no maps they can add back in that make the pool better unless they just add Towers of Doom back in.
No, that's like the guy gave me a handshake at my high school reunion. Congratulations, those were the best years of your life. And you're just like, what? He was wrong. Absolutely, he was wrong, but still scared the crud out of me.
That's a terrible thing to say to someone, by the way. That was I don't know who that was. I hope he wasn't a family member because he was a terrible person.
No, he was wearing his high school football ring, so I think we all knew that.
Wow. So he was a walking stereotype.
Years.
Good to know. Good to know. Can we just lock in? Is there a lock-in button where we can just keep this and just ignore future map rotations? Unless, like you said, Dunk, they just add one battleground and it's Towers of Doom.
So I'm loving this map rotation.
What's the crux? Like, what change? I love Infernal Shrines. I love Tomb of the Spider Queen. But Towers of Doom is good, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If people can remain calm enough to realize that you can win at any point.
I think Warhead Junction and Garden of Terror were just real problems. Like, I know before the rotation, we had talked about it. I was talking about, like, oh, I actually enjoy Garden of Terror. I like the opportunity to see it back. But then after playing a whole bunch of it, it felt like there were too many maps because Warhead Junction and Garden of Terror were in the same pool. It felt like both of those maps were like huge maps. People just run around and be split, and it's frustrating. It's okay if you get a small dose of that, but I think every time I got them back to back, I was just absolutely crying because it was, I don't know, frustrating, I guess. And now we don't have that. Now I feel like all the maps are really standard for the most part, and then there's Blackheart's Bay, which is not quite standard, but it's okay because it's just Blackheart's Bay, and you're going to be on a standard map next game.
I found myself in a weird place with this battleground rotation. I absolutely love it, but I think I like Garden of Terror now, and I think I like it more than Blackheart's Bay. And I don't know what happened. I'm a little concerned, but that's where I personally am. I don't know when that happened because, oh God, I used to hate Garden of Terror. But like Blackhearts and Mines, man, just get them out of here. I'll take Garden any day.
I would even go as scandalous as to say I would rather play Hanamura than Blackheart's Bay.
Ooh.
I think I'm with you, Kyle.
I do
Oh
that.
my
Not like in
gosh.
a dimension where I'm stuck playing Hanamura forever. Like no.
Yeah.
So if it's the only battleground, you would take Blackhearts over Hanamura. But if it's in a rotation, you would take Hanamura over Blackhearts.
Yeah.
Okay. I can get behind that.
But I'm a dirty Zul'jin player, so give me a 2-lane map in my old Ariel, and I'm a happy man.
All right. Okay. All right. Dunk looks like he's about to throw up.
Yeah. I like Blackheart's Fae. I don't know.
Man, I don't know what it is. I think there's just too many new players that weren't here for when it was a staple, and it's a weird mix of people who have been playing it since the beginning and folks that are seeing it for the first time, and it makes me want to scream because I'm the former. I've been playing it since the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I see people pinging like crazy, and I'm looking at like we have 3 coins. Calm down about the turn in.
Okay, people trying to turn in when they don't have enough for a full turn in always cracks me up. But then also the people who like try to force a turn in, you're a level up right now. It's 11 to 12. You're going to get 13. The only thing you don't do is go try to force a turn in and fight right now. All you have to do is wait. Yeah. There's nothing pressed. The enemy team doesn't have coins. There's no treasure chests up. Just wait. Just get 13. Get this talent advantage. Don't run into the turn in and try to turn in, man.
Even if they have coins, as long as it's not enough for them to turn in. Chill. Just calm down. Stop pinging, please. Thank you.
I've been noticing that a lot on Sky Temple when actually the situation comes up a lot. 2 temples spawn and you've got more buildings than the enemy. So you can pull out your comfy chair and sit on the temple and do nothing and eventually win the game. But doing that is impossible. I mean, something I've been teaching on stream, right? Like you'll win the fight in bottom lane Warhead Junction and the top lane is gone. It's empty. And the chat's going, go top, go win. And I'm like, this is Hero League. Like, hold on. We're going to go through this lane because even the thought of navigating 4 people through 2 lanes to get into the top, which is more convenient, is absurd. We're not eating healthy on vacation. We're just going to go to McDonald's, darn it. And we're going to go through the front door.
Today was the first day, I think, ever in my history of playing this game that I drew a crude line with the going here pings to say, let's all just jackknife up to the top lane where the only keep is down and end the game because we just killed 4 of them and people listened and we won.
It worked?
It worked in a
my
quick
gosh.
match. It was amazing.
You're in the Twilight Zone, dude.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever happened before. I'm pretty sure today was the only day.
We can announce that Garrett has officially entered the Twilight Zone at the end of last week's stream. He placed in Diamond 3.
Oh, thanks for making me feel like crap.
Why would that make you feel like that, man?
Because you're just like, here, this horrible pleb who has never placed Diamond 3.
No, you have entered the Twilight. You're in no man's land. You have left the safety of your village and you have entered the adventure. I'm excited for you.
Well, it's Team League, so I still have to herd cats to go play with me in there. So, anyways, yeah, I was very excited though. By the way, I don't care. You can call me a pleb. You can yell at me that I got carried. I don't care. I'm happy. So anyway, hey, speaking of placements, Dunk, you're the only one who has completed them, and there's something new this season.
Yeah,
you can be placed into 1000 Master, and you were placed into 1000 Master, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, I did.
What do you think of this?
I've never been one of the people who was like, oh, placements are rigged, Diamond 3, Illuminati, like freaking out about the rank system. For some reason, like, I really don't understand. For some reason, people just get so up in arms about the rank system. Everyone feels like they're being slighted in every rank system that I've ever seen. And I don't really know why. So for me, this didn't mean much, this placement change. I placed into Master. I probably would have gotten to Master anyway eventually if I'd placed in D3. So for me, I didn't think it was a big deal. But I know a lot of people are like getting pretty wild about it. I'm not sure why.
Man, Dunk, while I really enjoyed your answer, you don't know how to get upvotes because that was way too like level-headed and middle of the road.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like not joking. you got a little philosophical there, and I like it. I want to keep running down that road because you're right. If you go and look, like, you could throw a dart at any other game's subreddit, and chances are there's at least 5 extremely upvoted posts that are torches and pitchforks about something, and generally it's that. Hearthstone lately it's been about Druid. Now that's getting nerfed. I'm sure we'll get back to complaining about the ranked ladder very soon. But like, it's the 7 flow. It doesn't matter where you go. That people kind of get bent out of shape about this kind of stuff, and I'm definitely guilty of this too in every game I've ever played. But it's a fun exercise. I would recommend people go and look at other games. If you're a content creator and negative comments got you down, go look up someone you're a big fan of and read their comments.
Yeah.
So it's the same everywhere. But Kyle, I know you had some thoughts on what was going on with the big Trickster post this week.
Yeah, well, this was interesting, too, because we did sit on Kel'Thuzad news for quite a while, which I think led, the carrot on the stick to rot a little bit. And people went, what else? What else can we dig up and start getting a little upset? And this week, Trickster made a very good post over on Reddit why he wasn't retiring, for one, to combat some talk about him, but also why he's been less than pleased recently with the Hero League system. And a lot of it are complaints you may have heard before, or statements. I don't want to call them complaints. But the one that really resonated with me is, if these games are even, or if this matchmaking is good currently, why are there so many huge level deficits? Why aren't our games more even? And that could perhaps be a gameplay or a mechanic that Blizzard can fix. That's the one that resounded with me the most. And I found it interesting because I, too, am one of those who very self-analytical. I want to know what I did wrong. And something that helped me out a lot this week is to stop asking why and ask what. And it's such a simple process, but if you do it for yourself, why did we lose? I suck. My team, it's so easy to answer why with really bad answers. But when you start going with what, when you say, what went wrong there? The draft. That sounds like a really bad answer to what? Because any draft works. I've seen the most bogus, no support, no tank comps win. That doesn't matter. It's that we didn't make those adjustments. We didn't keep dodging owls. And when you dig deeper into what, you really find what you were capable of in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's too easy to scapegoat the draft or scapegoat the one guy who fed at the end of the game or whatever. But there's always a lot of variables that could change. And two things. One, people don't appreciate how high variance they are in their own performance. So for reference, I would say I'm a relatively high skill player. I completely 100% no doubt lost a game for my team last night because I accidentally Vorpal bladed back onto a boss that was stomping, got one shot, and then my team lost the game off of it. Absolutely my fault. 100%, no question. I take the blame for that. And I'm a high school player. That kind of mistake can happen. And people don't appreciate that, that one game that happened for me, well, sometimes that's going to happen for your teammates. And they see that once because it's the only time they've ever seen that person play. And they're like, oh my gosh, how does this guy even play video games, right? Because they just don't appreciate how high variance people are skill-wise. And then the next thing is people have narrow skill sets, I think, where they excel. Not just people who are one tricks, but a lot of people are only good at a small subset of the things in the game. So you get huge level deficits, even with technically equally skilled teams, because it just happened that this draft, this map, this game, the wrong aspects of each people's strengths were pitted against each other. Right? Maybe you had a guy playing off role. It's not his best role. Maybe you had someone who can only play one hero and the enemy team had a counter for that. And then maybe your offlaner isn't good on rotation maps, but the game doesn't know he's not good on rotation maps. The game just knows that he wins X% of the time, so he belongs here. Well, that means that if he's on a map that doesn't require him to rotate, then he's better because as a tank, maybe he's really good in the 4-man, but maybe on rotation maps, he doesn't know how to control the space. And those are so different skill-wise, all these different little aspects, that sometimes even if the games are technically evenly matched, if you just end up fighting the wrong aspect of each other, you're going to get huge level differences.
I think that's another thing that is the issue of that is multiplied by the frequent battleground rotations as well. And as much as I like to sit here and complain that hey, I would love them to slow down on the battleground rotations, at the end of the day, this is the speed it's going. If I want to be good at heroes, I need to accept it, move past that, and play better.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's that's all very good points about the high variance. And there's again casting this net to all of the other games that have matchmaking of some sort. They're going to have high variance as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you also didn't mention just cats jumping in your lap or disconnecting or experiencing lag and not lying about the fact that you're experiencing lag. Some people do actually just get lag.
Thankfully, that one doesn't happen to me too often.
Yeah, I haven't seen someone claim lag in a long time, but yeah, I don't know. It's these competitive games are mental gymnastics for sure.
But in the end, did you feel like the Master 1000 system helped, or just another part of the system? Hopefully it'll evolve further.
Just another part of the system for me. I don't know. It's just I'm in Master now. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's I always like to think about what do people want? Like, what are they suggesting? Like, going back to the voice chat, if we got voice chat, how quick until, we get 5 games in a row with really rude people? We're like, man, why is it
permanently turning this off?
We just start complaining about that. I'm a big proponent of it. I when I do play Overwatch, I do use it. When I'm playing on Xbox, I use it. I will just go out of my way to mute particularly rude people. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's worth the risk for those games when you do get other players that do actually want to strategize through voice. But I don't know, it's always interesting.
Well, and in the end, I feel like you do fall eventually to what Trixler was talking about here, that he feels like he's spending the majority of his game teaching other players how to play. And that could easily happen in that voice environment. It's one that's very scary to me because I've enjoyed these games, in the darkness for so long. The idea of anyone getting to have an impact. But you also are going to learn really, really fast, probably, because you will not only see the wall of text that you might be ignoring, but you're going to hear the cacophony of sound at what you're doing wrong. And you have to find it in yourself to analyze that information. And it's hard, and it sucks, and it's going to be depressing. That's how you get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, granted, I wouldn't recommend every teacher in the world teach that way, but it is an effective way of learning. So, well, before we move into our strategy talk for today, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/ITN, where many of you are supporting this here podcast. In fact, that is why we bring DunkTrain back on once a month. We bring Jeff Kanata back on once a month. And we get to pay them for coming on because of the support over on our Patreon. And on this episode, we wanted to thank Patrick B., Taylor H., The Jen, Lockridge, and Crazy Mouse. Again, I call on the question that that's your actual name. But whatever the case is, thank you all very much for supporting. And if you enjoy Into the Nexus and would like to support us, go to patreon.com/ITN. Now, let's move on to strategy.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ah. That seems generous.
And this is your brain on fell magic.
So, Kyle, you were clearly inspired this week via a tweet longer by Yoda, the player, not the Jedi.
No.
Some might say he's a Jedi. But he put up a decent-sized post about where he sees the actual roles within Heroes of the Storm from a competitive aspect. And it seems like you've been doing some soul searching to figure out whether these roles are viable for pickup games or Hero League.
If we can start to evolve that draft process into something that makes more sense in people's heads, we can stop the panic picks. Of course, this show doesn't reach everybody who plays Heroes of the Storm, but we can at least help people make sense and another way to help recover that, because I believe that people don't know how to play from behind right now. We need to give them everything we can to make them feel like winners. And if they are a level behind, they're still darn feeling like winners, right? that's going to happen in the draft so often. And I am ashamed to think that our understanding of the draft is still, we need more burst. Oh. So what can we do? Are these roles that we can adapt to Hero League, or are they simply something that's going to hover in competitive? Let's find out.
Well, I struggle. I don't want to go through this verbatim and read exactly what Yoda wrote. So I would recommend everyone go and read Yoda's post. We have a link in the show notes if you're listening after the podcast, because it's gone up. But he basically breaks it down to 5 roles, which is tank and healer, which are the obvious ones that are basically what you would expect them to be. But then the final 3 are soaker, main DPS, and roamer, which is the most he put the most flexible term, and I think given his examples, absolutely, because supports could even roll into this.
Mm-hmm.
On
a base level here, is this something you agree with, Dunk?
I think as a starting point, I think everyone agrees at the very first level with at least 3 of these. Everyone agrees you probably want to have a tank every game, you probably want to have a healer every game, and you probably want to have at least one main DPS hero every game. I think in Hero League, in Quick Match, everyone can pretty much agree with that, right? Like in your general experience. So those, I think, aren't really arguable, contentious in any way. Now, his other 2 roles that he identifies are soaker and roamer. And I think the issue is the soaker role is probably the one that the least people really identify with and want to play, in my experience, other than a very certain subset of people will want to play Zul or Zagara or Probius or something every game and just be that split person. But I don't think people identify it as something that you really need. Like, people tend to talk about globals maybe as something you kind of sort of need, and globals generally fall in this soaker category a lot of the time, but people, I think, haven't correctly identified just how important it is to have one of these heroes who's good at wave clearing, who can go to lanes away from the teams and deal with that.
And the soakers he lists here are all heroes that sort of show up on the scene perhaps quickly, or at least have some sort of, I'm here suddenly, let's do this potential before heading back to what they were doing to Haka, Malthael, Illidan, Zul, and Zagara.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, globals or high PvE pressure, something that allows you to deal with being far from your team and be effective.
Yeah, even Zul in that list that you just rambled off, like no quick movement, but the second you see that Zul come out of the bush, you're like, well, this lane is over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is getting pushed out. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just moving us along to the roamer.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, roamer. This one, I don't know. This one is what I would call a flex, and that's basically what he says in his post. He would call this a flex, and I think most people agree this 5th spot can kind of go towards any kind of hero. Like, sometimes this is a second support, sometimes this is another melee, sometimes it's another tank, sometimes it's another DPS. I basically overall agree with these roles. Idealistically, it's just I think even if people know that these are the roles, a lot of times people don't draft to them in Hero League. Even if I ask 5 people, if I put 5 people I'm the matchmaker, I put 5 people on a team, even if all 5 of those people know that ideally these are the roles, people feel like it's not that big of a deal, right? Like, oh, I can just pick 2 mages here. It's not that big of a deal, right? People don't respect the need for structure in their team comps.
Beyond the one trick pony, how much of it is just, I don't know, overconfidence, or this line of thinking is like, well, I'll just outplay the other team.
I would be interested. I honestly don't know if people just think I'll outplay, or if people just think team comp doesn't matter that much, or if people think
it's an insane thought when you stream, right? That team comp doesn't matter, but maybe at home, isolated by yourself.
Well, during the course of this episode, we have ebbed and flowed between putting weight on that and then taking weight away just a few minutes ago. So what is the balance? Because obviously most players of this game are not going to be able to play enough heroes to be competent in all of these slots. So what is the balance?
Well, I think the reason people don't identify the roles as being like really concrete is because it's not obvious when you're missing a role. Like there's not like a big thing missing unless it's a tank. You really do need a tank. If you don't have a tank, then everyone feels it immediately. Like you just can't step to the opponents, you die. But other than that, if you're missing a role, it's just like, oh, these team fights feel weird, or these team fights feel hard, or we're always having to deal with minions, what's going on? Like people don't really grasp that. Whereas I feel like in other MOBAs, if you're missing like the like reference would be like, if I'm missing a top laner, like, oh my gosh, this whole lane, nobody's dealing with it the whole game. And like, because lanes aren't really static and the game is more flexible than that in Heroes, you can't really identify as easily that you're missing a role. And I think that's why people don't fill these roles religiously.
That's interesting. It's funny to think that Heroes is so many people's first MOBA when you do see that lane alone and all you're thinking is, you are losing us the game in 40 minutes. Someone needs to get in there. Again, and Kel'Thuzad's a perfect example of what you're talking about too, because I'll end up on Blackheart's Bay. It's a quick match. If I complete my quest in 5 minutes, heck yeah, I'll go take some merc camps. It doesn't matter anymore if we got a merc camper. I can't do that quest. I don't get my phylactery, so I can't heal myself while I'm doing that merc camp. There's no way I can do it 2 levels down. So in that way, again, your brain kind of goes, oh, I just have to kick butt. Comp doesn't matter. If I'm winning hard enough, that's all that really counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Like, even if it's not a one-trick pony, I think some people maybe have a core of 3 or 5 heroes that they feel that they're competent enough with, that their ability to execute on a hero outweighs the importance of the draft.
What about something like multi-shot that when 4 levels up is clearing the lane, but 4 levels down, nothing to that Zerg wave? Is there a way we could, social engineer in the draft, making that Vala believe they don't have enough lane clear, and we get that for the team, and that under this sort of classification would end under Soaker, I guess. They're Malthiel's here, who's not great at lane clear, but Soaker.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's again, I want to cop out and just say, well, we need to communicate. We need to talk. We need to actually think about and pay attention and not tab out and check Twitter when the draft is going on.
I'm guilty of that for sure.
Oh, 100. We've all. That's why I brought it up.
Absolutely.
I didn't bring that up accusing anyone else. I'm accusing myself.
Yeah. I'll tap back in with like 5 seconds left and be like, oh gosh, what does my team need? What do they have?
What just happened? It happens in Hearthstone too. You're just like, wait, where did my board go?
Yeah.
Going through the history and like, oh, it doesn't go back far enough. Yeah, it's I don't know. These are all, and there's no concrete answer. I think what we're getting to here is that there's no hard and fast rule. It's not black and white. It's not set in stone. It is a balance, and you need to figure it out. And at the same time, there is some truth to, Kyle, what you said 15 minutes ago, that don't put too much weight on the draft. Don't chalk it up to you lost at the draft, because there were probably multiple ways for you to pivot based on what you did have to make it work. Yes, you're going to have to work harder, but there was still the possibility to eke out a win there.
Let's take this experiment, and now we've expanded our vocabulary. We now have Soaker and Roamer kind of in our heads. Cool ideas and a way to maybe help recover a draft. How can we help a draft out there that starts with something that gives 0 information? Someone takes an early Muradin, we're going to make a basic comp. Someone takes the early Vala, we used to go Ariel, but now we still give it enough support. When people first pick Asmodan, like I talked about Nubarak or even Tyrande first, there's just this held breath. Is there a rule that we can give people that helps them work out a comp out of a half kind of hero. And I include a Nubarak in that because it's not quite enough. You can double support it, but it's still kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man, because there's just so many, like, there's so many unique cases. Like, I think if you wanted to set something up like that, like, you would need to go through every hero and talk about, well, when your team first picks this hero, these are kind of the things where they struggle, and these are the things where they're good. And that's just such a monumental amount of information that you can't impart that really to someone unless you're writing an encyclopedia. Like, okay, my teammate first picks a Nubrak. I know that I probably need another melee, preferably a full tank to go with him. It could be a bruiser. You're at risk if you go a squishy melee with a Nubrak. You won't have enough frontline unless you're hard dive. Even that is like, then I could go into detail of like what heroes fit in each of these roles. It's so much information that I think it's tough, and you just kind of have to learn on your own. I don't know. It's hard.
And I think that's a perfectly sane reaction. It is hard. So one thing we can take from this instead, that, you know, this isn't now a set of rules. Be pure in your role is probably one of the strongest things you can do in Hero League. Like, here he lists the tank as Garrosh, Muradin, etc., Johanna. Interesting for me to see Garrosh in there, but he does soak a lot of damage, and people will go after him and target him almost like World of Warcraft style. Tank won't stop targeting him. So that does work in the end. And here for healer, he has Malfurion, Rhaegar, Kharazim, Uther, and these very pure role here. The assassins as well. I like this. Greymane, Lunara, Vala. He includes Li Ming, Chromie, Kel'Thuzad. We're just talking about raw damage, but enough raw damage to win the game. If you're drafting something like Vala over Raynor, things are just going to go easier in the draft for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the first four are useful for you to carry, like, keep in the back of your brain when you're going into a draft. And other than that, that fifth role, that's where you're going to need to pivot. And sometimes you're going to get that first pick Asmodan. It's like, well, that fifth role's already taken. Now we need to try and build around it.
Yep.
So you just
I agree.
You got to build safe after that point and try not to tilt. Because I tilt. And then I tab out and read Twitter.
To get over the first pick Kharazim that I'm trying to rationalize. But that's me. We all have our one hero.
Yeah. Yeah, you and your first pick Kharazim.
Dunk, can you sell me on Kharazim? Because I have a problem. One of my players loves Kharazim too, and I just never went alongside him. People say he's got the highest burst heal in the game. That he's the most responsive guy in the game. Like, there's a lot of Kharazims out there who love him, and I feel like a horrible person.
I'm probably like the last person to ask for helping you believe in Kharazim, because I get tilted when I have a Kharazim on my... Here's the problem. Every time I have a Kharazim solo support on my team, I feel like it's the guy who doesn't play support, who wants to play a melee assassin, so he picks Kharazim, he goes full damage build, he goes 7-sided strike, even if the enemy team is 4 tanks that are all going to be on top of each other all the time. Like, that's my experience with Kharazim. So I'm not a big Kharazim fan, because just generally I find that people who pick Kharazim are the people who would rather be picking melee assassins, but they don't want people to yell at them for trolling the draft.
Should be Stukov.
I love playing Stukov,
He's
but
fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Kharazim I'm not sold on.
I'm happy, and I think I agree with you there. It's too dangerous to group up is probably the biggest thing. I loved him when on release. I thought he was cool.
It's too dangerous.
He was very mobile.
It's too dangerous to put your healer that far forward when he's trying to heal the front line.
Well,
and he's not
that too.
And he's not Uther. And Uther doesn't even have to get close, but Uther's the only one who can really safely put his ass on the line like that.
Yeah.
I'd have no better choice of words right there. Sorry, everyone. But that's just even when they do go full healing build, I'm just holding my breath the whole time, like, please don't die, please don't die, please don't die. Oh my god, why are you dashing in right now? I need that heal, but you just got stunned and you're dead. And as more cleanses get removed from the game too, man, some scary stuff. It's just I like the way Kharazim plays. I understand the appeal. Personally, I just think he's hurting right now. I'd like to see some adjustments on his front, but I love that we went completely off the reservation. We just chased Karazim into the jungle and died. That's what happened.
That happens.
Yep. Well, anyways, again, check out Yoda's full post. It's on the subreddits everywhere. If you follow him on Twitter, it's there, and we have a link in the show notes. If you're listening to this after it has posted, not live, the show notes can be found at amove.tv/ITN. Now, let's wrap this up with an email or two.
Darkness stopped calling.
I hear the wilds call. Wait, nature calls.
Okay, tell them I'm not here.
You may send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. Dead Center kicks it off this week and says, I have seen ETC being played more and more. I thought he was too weak. Is this because he provides more CC/displacement, or has there been enough time for everyone to forget the old build that was nerfed in favor of something new?
I also have seen a huge upswing in ETC play. I think it's actually a combination of a lot of factors. Like, there were a few tanks who got nerfs over the past couple patches, not in the most recent patch or the one before it, I think, but like, if you think about a Nubrak who was really overtuned for a while, he's been tuned back down. Arthas was really strong, he got nerfed. And ETC kind of got that rework at the same time, but his rework ended up being a huge nerf, right? So everyone just panic stopped playing him. And I think he's probably been fine since those small buffs he received a couple weeks after his rework. It just took a while for people to come back, right? Like, once burned, probably not picking that hero again, right? Until the pros tell me it's okay. And now that we saw some pros playing ETC, it'll trickle back into the meta. Even though it's been fine that whole time, it was just like, oh gosh, that was so bad that one time, I'm not going to touch him again type thing, you know?
So you think it's similar to the surge of Malthael this week, that enough other heroes within that same group got nicked down, death by 1,000 cuts, that just rose to the top again by not moving anywhere for a while?
Yeah, and people feel more comfortable. Like, when the nerfs aren't as fresh in their mind, people feel more comfortable locking a hero in, even if the numbers haven't changed since then.
Okay.
I've been finding myself playing him more too. In fact, I was quite bummed, not entirely interested. He got his new Marine skin, so I'm like, okay, ETC. 3 years late, let's do this.
That was going to be my answer, was it's that new Marine skin. It's amazing. Yeah. That's it.
It gives the techno lasers around him. He looks awesome on the field. And also Pinball Wizard is pretty darn good after the disappointment of Echo Pedal and Hammer-On nerfs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And
I definitely bought the skin and played some ETC games too, not going to lie.
Oh, it's fantastic.
There we go. We solved it.
And his core kit, it's the same. He still does the same basic stuff just as well as he ever had. Power Slide is still amazing. Power Slide is so freaking good. Yeah. And I forgot. I never played him a lot, but I forgot how effective Power Slide can be now that I've actually, seen you on it, Kyle. I haven't seen a ton of ETC in my own personal games, but I have played a few with you. But by the way, speaking of buying skins, because we've been randomly jumping onto other topics throughout the course of this entire episode, sure. I figure I'll take my turn. I broke down and bought the Kel'Thuzad bundle because I just had to have multiple variants of the best skins that have been added to this game ever. So that being said, that is me telling you that I just spent a bunch of money and I'm mad about it. I officially hate the gem system. God, I hate the gem system.
Because you had to do the dirty work of first going to the window number 1 and then taking that ticket to window number 2.
Yeah, and now I just have extra gems left over that aren't enough to buy anything. And I would have just rather given the exact amount of money for what I wanted, and discounted for things I already owned. And I know it's already discounted for gems, but space dollars make me angry. And it didn't it didn't affect me until now, because there hasn't been anything added to the game until a bunch of Death Knight Northrend-esque stuff, where I finally broke down and actually utilized the gem system.
And our original justification, looking at it from free to play, is, Blizzard can't give us bucks. They can't give us actual money because that means all sorts of weird stuff can happen, international trade laws and whatnot. So gems was a way to get around it. They could give us gems, but we haven't had any events really since release that gave gems.
No. With that in mind, on top of the fact that they put skins in that I obviously had to buy, I'm clearly annoyed with gems. So Anyway, that was just a little aside this week. I was just like, man, this feels dirty. These skins are amazing and they're killing it, and I have to have them. But I would have just liked a dollar amount.
Yeah,
but
I'm in the same boat.
Not my jam. Well, let's wrap this up with an email from Revan, who writes in and says, "Hey guys, I've recently fallen into this huge slump right now. My last 20 matches has been 17 losses and 3 wins, and this is all in quick match. I'm not sure what's going on right now and why I keep getting my face pounded in. It doesn't matter when I switch between my best heroes such as Kerrigan, Cassia, Vala, etc. It just seems to keep getting worse, and I have no idea what I'm doing wrong." Revan also provided a link to his HOTS Logs profile. Wraps up with, "Maybe the issue is I'm just doing too much quick match and the chaos has been eating away at my skills or whatever." It certainly has happened to me, Revan. "I'm just kind of at a loss right now, and I want to know what I'm doing wrong. Sorry, this probably isn't enough info to help me, but I'm at a loss."
So I wanted to use this email, first of all, to ask, DunkTrain, what do you do when you're looking at a HOTS Logs? If someone, like here, sends you this and says, what can I possibly do? What's the first thing? What's the first tab? How do you make useful facts out of perhaps random information?
That's a good question. So, first thing, I'm going to look at what roles they play the most and what their win rates are on those roles. Because I want to find out if this is the kind of person who spreads their play around a lot of different heroes or focuses on one particular thing. And this person seems to have like a reasonable diversity, I would say. It's a couple different roles, seems like have some value, but definitely a DPS player. Like that's very apparent. They're a damage dealer player. And then I think if you wanted a detailed breakdown, like you have to go in match history, maybe look at like what maps they're losing the most, what heroes they're losing on the most, try and look at drafts and think, okay, was he unfavored in this draft? Was his pick good? I mean, these are quick match games, so it's chaos, and I don't deal with quick match that much, so it's tough.
When you look at something like map statistics and you got this nice little arrow and you can pop it out and see which heroes you've been winning on there with, which ones you've been losing on. I mean, what's the cutoff point? When can you say here on the very front page, looking at last 90 days, he has a 25% win rate with Greymane, 24 games played. That's pretty spooky. Just cut it off completely? Or do you try to make the adjustments and say, I misdraft him only when X happens, can I Greymane?
Well, I guess it depends what the reason you're playing is, right?
That's
if
what
Greymane's your favorite hero, you're definitely not going to tell someone to stop playing your favorite hero because you lose a lot with them, you know? But if someone's, writing in an email, they're concerned, like, what's going wrong, skill level issues, maybe you tell them, well, why is your Greymane win rate so low? Why? Like, it's hard without specifically diving in and looking at every game, because I really do feel like in quick match, win rates don't tell all the details. Even with sample sizes up to like 50, win rates barely matter, I feel like, in quick match, just because there's so many variables. Like there's, 10 plus different maps you could be on with that hero. There's different comps you can be in. Like, it's just so chaotic that you need an insane sample size to actually tell you information, I think, about your skill with the hero or what aspects of that hero you're weaker at.
Absolutely fair. Once we start to remove the perhaps counterfacts we could do in the research that he's capable of performing to improve his play, what else do you recommend if you're going 17-3? Is it a break? Is it watch a video?
I definitely recommend breaks when you're losing a whole bunch. I don't know how long of a time period 20 games, 17 of which are losses is for you. Like, for me, I'm a streamer, I play a lot. That would be like 2 days of spam losses. That would be painful, but I could deal with that because I've played so much. But if like you played a lot for a weekend, it was your weekend off or something, and you just played a whole bunch of games and you're losing them all, it might have something to do with you. Maybe you need to take a break. Maybe you're playing poorly right now. Of course, not all of those games will be your fault, but if you're playing at 25% less capacity because you're tilted about last game still, then you keep compounding all those difficulties. You keep playing when you know you're not at optimal condition, that will definitely impact your win rate. And I think advising people to take breaks is like a huge thing. Like, people just don't really take breaks. They don't take a breather. Go outside, hang out for a minute. Like, even if that's all it is if it's like a 15-minute break after a bad loss, that can be enough.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tempting to think that maybe Blizzard needs to wee it up a little bit. And be like, hey, guy, you've been playing for about 45 minutes straight. I mean, the Wii was always bothering you. Like, 45 minutes, Wii, I'm a child. What the hell's your problem? I'm going to play for 3 hours. But it could be good.
Yeah, there should be like a, hey, buddy, you died 75% more than your average in the last 2 games. Maybe you should take a walk.
That's a little passive-aggressive from a video game. I'm not sure I like that. Reminds me of failing the PvE stuff in Super Smash Brothers, where it's just like failure, giant letters on screen. But
well, it's a tough situation, and this happens a lot in a lot of different video games. And some of them are really popular, and some are just bad. Like, some video games you play through, like Force Unleashed. Sorry, Garrett, I know you're a pretty big fan.
No. Force Unleashed is the first game I think ever that I immediately had buyer's remorse on, and was the first game when I was technically an adult that made me throw a controller.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Force Unleashed had horrible blocking. Like, I came from God of War, which had good block mechanic, the best. You're a god. You block everything and reflect it back. Loved it. Force Unleashed comes out, and it's just so bogus. So you start doing things like hiding in corners and clipping into a wall to avoid the boss's explosion attack. And this is basically the profession of Dark Souls streamers or cheese masters. However you can do, because the game's broken. It makes no sense. Why did that attack hit? Why are there, this is not fun. So you get cheesy. So I think ultimately the more we lose in Heroes, the same thing happens as we immediately dive for hot slogs because we are upset and we want facts and we want a counterpoint. And I know, I'm also guilty, particularly when I'm playing with a single friend of, oh, that combo's out of the meta. That combo's crud. We need this new combo that everyone's playing. And then it wins and we go, problem solved. We're gods again.
My answer to this, other than everything that was discussed here, because I agree with all of it, is I would say try and put yourself back into a student or a learning mindset. And I would recommend it in one of 2 ways. One is take Greymane for the example. Go ahead and apply this to any other hero you want to learn that you're losing on. Find a friend who kicks ass as Greymane. Maybe it was that person that inspired you to play Greymane in the first place. Kyle has done this to me multiple times with many heroes, where I've never thought I'd play them, watch Kyle on face with them for a week, and decided I wanted to go learn them, and see if they'll watch some of your replays, or go into a game with you and kind of be the ass kicker on your shoulder. The other is, after you take your break, go play a hero you've never played and actually research it. Go find a streamer that is streaming that hero. Go actually watch a YouTube video. Actually read up on the build, why it works. Pay attention. Don't just blind copy the build. Figure out why they're picking those talents. And try and go in and play a hero that you have never played before with some type of support structure. Come into it with fresh eyes, so you're hopefully not just falling back on old habits for the sake of trying to eke out a win.
The number of times I've heard people say, oh, I hate X hero, and then they play it and they go, oh, I love it. It's like, I hate Illidan's. Illidan's are so, oh, this is fun.
No, that was murky for me, man. When murky came out, I was like, F this hero. I don't want to see another damn pufferfish take out a core. This is stupid. I can't believe this. And then I played him once, and I was like, oh my god, I love this hero.
You got your wish on the pufferfish there, though. Oh my goodness.
Yep. Yep. Oh, I like Full Metal in the chat room. It says, have your coach friend play Abathur, so they literally are watching you the entire time. If they're not watching your replay.
It's a new thing, you know, the idea of being able to connect online. I think a lot of gamers and a lot of their anger perhaps comes from the little pond kind of scenario. We all were, most of us, I think we can say that we were probably the champs in our middle schools, high schools, whether it was Magic or whether it was Super Smash Bros, whatever you're into, we applied ourselves and we got good to the best of our knowledge. And then the internet and matchmaking starts to evolve and come out, and you kind of go, oh, no, hold on, I'm the best. What do you mean there's a top 100 in the world?
You were making me get so old man on my porch right now, because now I'm thinking about, like, when I have a kid, like, my kid will never know what it was to be the best Super Smash Brothers player at your high school, because you're just going to always be online. Even though Nintendo doesn't know how to do online, it's always going to be online.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. And Dunk's probably sitting there like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I want to play against the best people in the world. Let's bring it.
Depends on the game, I suppose.
It's fair enough. But anyways, good emails, good show. Dunk, thank you as always for coming back on. Folks, again, itncast@gmail.com is where you can send those emails. Good luck, Revan. Let us know how it worked out, if anything we said here actually helped you. I'd love to hear from you again. Thanks again to our patrons over at patreon.com/ITN, especially our producers, Declan H, Cheesy Bob, and Mythdoll. You can pick up an Into the Nexus t-shirt over at shirts.amove.tv. We also have custom etched glassware. You can pick up a pint glass, coffee mug, stuff like that over at etched.amove.tv. We're typically live Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/AMoveTV. Would like to remind you, next week, Kyle is vacationing and I may be underwater. So we're not 100% sure what Into the Nexus's schedule is next week, but we're going to try and get something to you next week. And in fact, if you want to keep up to date with the show, especially when the scheduling is erratic, the best thing to do is to follow our Twitter account at ITNcast. Around the table, Dunk, you are our returning guest host for the week, so you're up first. Where can folks find you?
Folks can find me at Twitter at DunkTrain or twitch.tv/DunkTrain. Either one, those are my most common places you can find me. Pretty easy, simple, across the board. Type in DunkTrain, you'll be able to find me.
And Kyle, how about yourself?
I will be gone for a week and a half here, so I'm not going to point people towards my Twitch. My Twitter will be uninstalled because I'm a champion at vacationing.
Nice.
Yeah, I know how to protect myself. You should check out my YouTube, though, in my absence. In fact, I just posted a new solo Q&A episode called Last Night, and for some reason, I felt a little curious about what the last night of Hero League might be like, and I decided to go full friendship mode. And I assumed some people were tryharding in there, so you know what? I backed them up, and it was actually a really good time. Check out the episode.
That's awesome. Folks, I'm on Twitter at Garrett Art. Where right now you'll probably hear a bunch of hurricane tweets and me yelling at everyone who's just going, if I lived in Florida, I'd just leave, because it's that easy. It is that easy to do. I definitely have a ton of money that I can just throw at an airplane. There's one way out of my state, guys. The gas is already gone. So, and every podcast I do can be found at amove.tv. Go over there, check it out. There's a Hearthstone podcast called The Angry Chicken. There's a Spoilers podcast currently doing Game of Thrones content called Embrace the Spoilers, and many more. So go and check that out. That'll wrap it up for this week's episode. Thank you all very much for tuning in. And to everyone not rolling their eyes at me for not evacuating, I really appreciate everyone telling me to keep safe during the hurricane. So thank you all. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Until next time, good luck and have fun.
Take care.